Hey guys, happy Thursday. I hope everybody's having a wonderful towards the end of the day. I hope you're having a great week. Thank you guys so much for joining me in this space and for allowing me to have your ears for a few moments or however long we're here. I would love the conversation to run as long as we can manage it, but we got to respect our time, right? So welcome to the Sustaining Results webinar, and that's a very loose working title. I came up with the idea to offer this as a value-based free resource for you guys off of the results that a group of clients and I actually experienced. We got done with a nutrition test group that we were doing. We got done on Sunday, and the results that came out of that were incredible. So I just had it in my mind to not only share with them how to sustain their results, but also to put that out there as a resource for as many people as possible, because of the fact that I know it's nearly halfway through the year, right? Can you believe it? It's June, which means for those of us that did stick to any New Year's, I hate to say resolutions, but New Year goals around fitness, life, relationships, career, anything. For those of us that did stick to making those things happen, I wanted to give us like a halfway through the year pep talk about how to continue to see the results that we're experiencing. So I hope you guys are ready for some very tangible, very usable, very valuable tools in my experience of going through an epic weight loss journey. And I'll get into that in a second, being able to sustain that weight loss, as well as make changes in my professional career and be able to sustain and continue to see results in that arena too. So I definitely wanted to share my knowledge, my expertise, in hopes that it will help you. So for those of you that are here live, feel free to drop any questions or anything in the chat. I would actually love to know what you've achieved, what it is that we can celebrate you about, what it is that you want to kind of sustain. Is it just that thing that you've achieved? You want to know how to kind of sustain that, and where you see there being an obstacle that you're going to have to jump over in order to make that happen. So a lot to write in there. So write in the chat just some answers to those things. And then for those of you that will be watching this recording, maybe you take some notes for yourself about those answers to those questions. And then afterwards, if you want to reach out and have a conversation deeper about your specific area, we can do that for sure. I definitely want to be of service to you in that way after we're done too. So for those of you that don't know me, maybe I should have started there. My name is Sabrina. It's such a pleasure to be in this space with you. Thank you for sharing your time and your energy with me always. I'm so appreciative of you guys trusting me in sharing with you in whatever capacity I can. So, yeah, I mentioned that I've been on a weight loss journey. So I actually lost close to 100 pounds, and it took me a long time to lose that weight, but I have been able to keep it off now for around 10 years. We're about to celebrate our 10-year wedding anniversary, and right when we got married was kind of when I was like, okay, this weight is cool. There's some other things that I want to change about my physique and my appearance, but the weight thing I think is good. So that's nearly 10 years ago. And I think my experience has guided a lot of what it is that I'm going to share with you about sustaining and maintenance and all that kind of thing, but not just from a weight loss journey. I wanted to be very clear that this isn't just about fitness. I also want to be clear about the fact that sustaining results is something that we need to be aware of in all areas of our life. If there's anything that you're trying to transform, anything that you're trying to change or shift the direction of, there comes a point where you're going to have to sustain that change, whether it's a career goal that you have, or maybe there's a relationship that you're trying to fix, or there's something in your life that you're trying to shift the direction. There comes a point where you're going to have to sustain those results, right? So I'm going to talk about my experience in lots of different areas, not just weight loss. But I know a lot of my clients are going to be watching this. A lot of prospective clients too are going to be watching this. So I probably will refer to the fitness and well-being and wellness kind of journey more often than not. Just heads up. I've taken some notes here, so if you see me looking this way, then I just wanted to make sure I stay on point, because I tend to ramble. For those of you guys that have been in like a conversational space with me before, you know that that is truth. So I want to respect everybody's time as best I can, so I made myself some notes to stay on point. So that's what's happening over here. So with the weight loss journey that I've been on, the sustaining phase and the maintenance phase has been so much more than just staying still. And that's a big point that I'm going to talk about. So it's kind of like going from a place of go, 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 doing all the things, being very regimented, you know, in waves. We all have waves like that, to then having kind of an energy that is almost like this, right? And it can be really hard to do that. Hello. Hi, Pamela. How you doing? I've muted everybody because I know that there's often a lot of background noise. So you guys are muted, but if you do have a question or anything, use the chat box and you'll be able to talk to me there. Okay, so through the weight loss journey, kind of finding that energy that's very balanced, but then also with career, business, I've been through a huge transition in that area too. And there's a whole season of pushing that has to happen in order to achieve particular goals, right? You see how that can be applicable to any area of our lives. It's not just in one space. So when you're pushing to make a goal happen, once you succeed, it's kind of like, okay, that's amazing. And if you guys are anything like me, it's like, that's amazing. What next? So we're going to talk about that too. And to give you an idea of how to make that happen, how to continue to see growth in your life, not stay stagnant, but doing so in a way that doesn't make you crazy. Because I know I've been victim sometimes to pushing and never celebrating and never really taking note of the good or the achievement. And then you get to a point where you're kind of like, what am I doing this for, right? So we're going to talk about how to avoid not necessarily burnout, but that kind of mental burnout, if you want to put it that way. So you ready to talk through some of this stuff? I'm excited just to share with you. So feel free to continue putting things in the chat thread, and we'll have some Q&A time at the end too, so I can answer any specific questions you have about things that are going on. So, right, let's get into it. So I wanted to start by talking about kind of the hurdles, the obstacles, the things that come up that are often the reason why sustainability or maintenance are a struggle. One of those things is getting sucked into this quick fix mentality. Ooh, excuse me, a quick fix mentality. And not just from like a health and fitness standpoint, we've discussed that, but more specifically, sorry, my camera's changing and doing all kinds of weird things. But more specifically from going all in and diving into something, giving it all of your energy and all of your time and all of your attention. And so you get to a point where, yeah, you may have reached the goal quicker. You may have gotten the results that you wanted. If you did choose a quick fix as it pertained to our health and fitness regime or whatever, you got to that goal, but then you kind of want to start living your life again. And then your results disappear, right? This is a common theme, and it's often why in diet culture, there's the whole yo-yo situation that happens, is because of that, let's do until we hit that goal, that milestone. And then actually, I don't want to eat like this for the rest of my life, or actually, I don't want to exercise like this for the rest of my life. So when I start doing or living the way that is more sustainable to me, the results fall down the toilet, right? So that's often the struggle. And let me know if you can relate to that. Like, write in the chat if you can relate to that. And if that's something maybe you may be struggling with right now, you got to that point and now you're kind of like, oh, I'm seeing my results backslide because I've come off of this very regimented kind of routine. So there's that. Losing weight or having business success at a pace that is not necessarily sustainable. And that's not just the quick fix scenario that I was just talking about, but also if you're kind of say you open a business, right? And I'm very aware that when you first open a business, there's a lot of, you have to give it your, it's like having a baby. You have to give it your everything from the get-go, and for a long time, until it starts to see, you know, profitability, until it starts to see some kind of success. And some businesses never see that. So when you, at that kind of starting off phase, you're giving it everything you have, like all the hours that God sends. You're working 16, 17 hours a day. You're neglecting family time. You're just all about that. But the problem with that is, obviously, if it's not an extreme situation like starting a business, but if it's something that you're trying to achieve and you go in it with that kind of mentality, that pace is not sustainable. So then you get to a position where you're like, if I have to do this forever, like, is it really worth it having this business? Or is it really worth it trying to lose this weight? Or is it really worth it, you know, studying for this exam or this qualification or whatever it is that you're going through, because you've come at it like a sprinter out of the blocks. You Usain bolted that ish, right? And now you're kind of like, I don't know whether I can continue to do this at this pace, and so I'm not going to succeed, because that's obviously what it's going to take. So there starts to be this mental self-talk kind of cycle that begins, and that's a huge struggle. So we're going to talk about that mindset element in a second. Be excited about that. I love talking about mindset kind of stuff. So be ready. And then the last thing that is kind of the struggle or the pain points that I recognize in a lot of people that I coach or that I mentor is they form habits that are very restrictive. And so when they decide that, again, I don't want to live like this for the rest of my life, there's this fear of moving away from those restrictive habits. And this is definitely something that happened to me in my weight loss journey, is because I tried all the things, guys. Like, a lot of you know my story, but I did a lot of the quick fix things, and I wasn't educated around proper nutrition, around proper exercise. So I was just doing whatever it is that I could possibly do to get the weight off. That was my main concern. I wasn't worried about being healthy. I didn't care about that this wasn't good for me. Fat blockers, diet pills, the cabbage soup diet, eating nothing but jacket potatoes. That was a real thing, by the way. It's called the military diet, and it's a real thing. I tried it. I did everything. So you kind of start to form these habits that are restrictive, that don't make sense, that anybody looking at it from the outside would be like, you are crazy. What are you doing? But then you may see results from that, right? If it's a very caloric, a low caloric diet, for example, then of course you're going to lose weight, because there's that whole calories in, calories out. That has a lot of truth to it. It's not as simple as that, but that's the basis of weight loss. So if you've got a caloric deficit, then you're going to see results. But then do you want to drink cabbage soup and that be the only nutrition you have for the rest of your life? Pamela's like, nope. Yeah, no, you like, who does? And so you start to have this fear around, yes, I'm seeing results, but is this what my life has to look like? And then you get into this kind of, this whole mental, again, situation. So we're going to talk about how to avoid those back and forths, how to avoid this negative spiral that we can go down, and have your sustainability in whatever area of life you're choosing to have it, whether it's in your fitness, it's in your health, it's in relationships, career, lifestyle, whatever, wherever it is that you are. We're going to talk about how to have sustainability without falling into any of these traps. Sound good? Good. Okay, so I'm gonna dive into like the real content, and I want to keep this at around the 30-minute, no longer than 45-minute mark, just to respect your time. It's Thursday evening. For those of you that are watching the replay, you're probably going to watch it over the weekend, so we want to make sure that I respect your time as best I can. So point number one, I've got 3 points to share with you, 3 tips, 3 very tangible things to share with you about how to avoid falling into any of these traps, and to have maintenance, to have sustainability in your life with whatever achievement or accomplishment you have achieved or accomplished. Okay, so point number one, guys, you need to get really real. You need to get really, really real with yourself. Sit down, evaluate your performance. Think about what got you here, what got you to the point where you're thinking about, how do I sustain my results? What got you here? What behaviors, what actions, what day-to-day kind of routines, what got you your results? Sit down, have a think about it, be very honest with yourself about what got you here, right? And then ask yourself this very simple question. Are those actions, those activities, those routines, those habits, those behaviors, are those things that I want to do for the rest of my life? Ask yourself that question. And if the answer is not immediately, hell yeah, I could do that for the rest of my life, then you have not got yourself into a sustainable routine. You can see how that would happen, right? So when you're thinking about and you're really evaluating that for yourself, I know from my experience, as I was going through my weight loss journey, I actually developed an eating disorder. I developed bulimia. It still shows up every now and again for me in very, very high stress kind of times of my life. But I developed a full-blown eating disorder while I was trying to lose weight because I was so fixated on being low calories, fixated on what was going into my mouth, fixated on just the number that I saw on the scale, not the lifestyle I was creating, not the health of my body, not the health of my mind. I was just focused on that number. So whatever it took to get that as low as possible, I was going to do, right? But then your girl likes to eat. I like sweet treats. I come from an African family. That's all we do, right? So bulimia was just, I hate to say it in this way, but it was a natural progression from that obsession with seeing a low number on the scale, a complete disregard for my health, but then having that kind of contradictory thing of wanting to eat all the time. So for me, I had to get to a point where I was like, and I've shared this a lot, that I got to my goal weight, but I had to look at my life and say, Sabs, is like, this cannot continue like this. I can't live this life in order to sustain this number. So I had to get really real. I had to think to myself, is this a lifestyle that I can maintain while I'm on vacation? Clearly not, because it had taken me 4 years to lose 100 pounds because we were going on vacation. And I would gain, no kidding, like 10 plus pounds in a week because I would just eat and drink and do whatever and not worry about any of that stuff. And so, no, I couldn't maintain that lifestyle on vacation. I couldn't maintain that lifestyle on weekends. Whenever there was no structure in my day, it was like, yo, let's eat all the things and drink all the things, right? So no, I can't maintain that. I was constantly yo-yoing. And so I had to ask myself, what needs to change? And so that's the question I want you to ask yourself. When you ask and you get real, evaluate your performance, evaluate the behaviors, activities, and habits that got you to where you are at a point where you're trying to sustain your results. Ask yourself, can I do this forever? If the answer is no, what needs to change? What is it? Is it the habits? Is it self-talk? Is it unrealistic expectations? Is it a crappy mindset? Are you talking to yourself like a piece of shit? Like, what is it that needs to change? And then once you have that answer, we can start putting into action some steps. And it's the scary part, because if you've been engaging in certain behaviors that have got you to where you are, and then realize that these are not behaviors that I can do forever, so something needs to change. There's this fear associated with, but if I change these things, am I going to gain the weight, or am I going to see less success in my business, or is my relationship going to backtrack, or is my life not going to have the forward momentum that it has been having? So I understand the fear. I do. I've had it too, but you've got to think about sustainability. You've got to think about how you want to live your life, and you've got to ask yourself, or not ask yourself, but realize point number 2. So point number 1 is get real, do all of those things, ask all of those questions. If you get to that last question of what needs to change and you have fear associated with that change, this second point is vital. I need you to hear it. In fact, I need you to take out a pen, write it down, and then underline it 7 million times in all the highlighter colors that you own, okay? Your worth is not in question. when you think about, if I stop throwing up after every meal, or if I stop eating only cabbage soup, or if I stop working 17 hours a day, or if I stop, you know, bowing down to that person's demands because that's the only way they're going to hear me or give me the time of day. If you stop doing those things and your mind is saying, but if I'm not doing those things, then there's going to be a backslide in my results. And so I'm a bad person, or I'm not worthy, or I suck, or, you know, I'm not supposed to have fun and upliftingness, that's not a word. I'm not supposed to have fun and joy and love and harmony in my life. These are the things that we start to believe. But I want you to understand, guys, that no matter what you achieve in life, no matter what your life looks like, no matter the struggles, the obstacles, the successes, the whatever, your worth is not in question. Your worth is not tied to the number on a scale, the amount of money in your bank account, the number of people in your life that think that you're the bomb.com. Like, your worth is not tied to any of those things. Your worth was set in stone the minute you were born, the minute you took space on this earth as a human. That is a good person. If you're sitting here on this call, in this conversation, you are a good person and you deserve good things to happen to you, because only good people come into a space wanting to be better, wanting to progress their lives, wanting to do those things in a healthy, sustainable way, right? So it's going to take a lot more than just me saying your worth is not in question. Get over it, girlfriend. Like, I understand that, but I need you to believe that. I need you to start to allow that to marinate in your brain. And whenever you start to think, I'm fat, so I'm ugly and I'm useless, that was like constant mantra in my brain, right? I'm useless because I'm enormous. This person talks to me like I'm crappy, so I must be. I come from nothing, so I'm never going to be anything, right? Once you start to have that kind of internal talk, those kinds of conversations going on in your mind, you need to find a way to extricate the external whatever is happening with your internal worth, because your worth is not in question. There's a lot of books, podcasts, kind of audiobooks, whatever, that I can recommend. And I'm happy to do that for anybody that wants to dive into that. But mindset coaching is a huge part of what I do. It's a huge part of the purpose and the passion that I have in this life, because it's work that I've had to do on myself in order to see, excuse me, don't eat broccoli before you come onto a call. Top tip from your mindset coach. No, it's a lot of work that I've had to do on myself throughout my whole entire journey. And a lot of it has been stuff that I've had to figure out myself, because I didn't have coaches and mentors and people to kind of be in this conversation with. Like I said, I come from an African family. Like, I don't know about you, but our family, they don't talk about stuff like this. We don't talk about what is it that's bothering you? What is it that you need to get past out of your head? Like, everybody's just like, just figure it out and carry on, live your life, be who you need to be for the people, right? We didn't talk about this stuff. And I think in the UK, generally, we're a little bit behind you guys here in the US when it comes to being open, like talking openly about like self-care and self-awareness and personal development and self-development, all those kinds of things. So it's definitely work that I've had to figure out on my own, which is why, again, I'm so passionate about what I do, because if I had to walk that path alone, if I can make sure that not like one woman doesn't have to walk that path alone, like, I'm a happy girl, you know? So when it comes to this mindset stuff and this self-worth stuff, ask yourself the question of, if my habits, behaviors, routines that have got me to where I am now change to be more positive, right? To not restricting yourself, to not killing yourself at work, to not letting people talk to you however they wish, whatever it is that you're dealing with, right? If the actions have to change, but changing the actions is making you think that you're going to lose results. And if you lose results, then you're a bad person. There's a lot of mindset coaching that needs to happen here. And sometimes it's going to take a little bit of a backslide in order to catapult yourself forward. That's something that I found. Like, I'm not at my lowest, like my weight has stayed pretty much the same just because I'm like heavier. I always have been more muscular. But my physique, I'm not at my slenderest now than I ever have been. But when I was at my slenderest, is that even a word? Words are hard on a Thursday evening, apparently. But when I was at my most slender, maybe that's the correct English, I wasn't healthy. I was full blown into that bulimia, illness. I was mentally not in a good place. Like, there was no self-love, there was no self-esteem, there was no confidence, there was nothing. So I will take a slight bump in my body fat percentage to be the woman that I am, right? And it takes that realization of what's it worth to you? Like, is it worth it to be Miss Skinny Manini, but you're miserable and you live your life just in this space of self-negligence? Or do the work and do the things and the sacrifice in the moment to make yourself strong and resilient and hopeful and vibrant, right? And then work on the external representing the internal, which is literally what I've had to do. So be real, right? Going back to that point number one, be real with yourself about what got you here. Ask yourself if it's sustainable. Ask yourself what needs to change if it's not. And then understand that your worth is not tied to the outcome. Your worth is only tied, like, your worth is not in question anyway, but you're only as worthy as you believe yourself to be. So if you're always holding yourself back from achieving great things, or being in, like, there's a lot of people that I put on a pedestal and I look up to, and I'm like, oh my gosh, if I could be like, the day that I'm in a room with these people, like, I've #made it, you know? I think we all have these people in our brain, all these circumstances, levels of success in our mind, but you've got to understand that you're not a better person because you're in that room and you're in that conversation, you're in that company. Your worth is never in question. Okay, so let me know if you want any podcast, book, whatever recommendations. I'm happy to do that. My clients and teammates that are on this call, you guys pretty much know all the ones, because I beat them into your brain every opportunity that I get, because mindset is a huge piece of any transformation journey, Okay, and then point number 3 is you must evolve. You must evolve, right? And I've got a habit of really butchering quotes. Like, when I write quotes down, I do it properly, but to say a quote, I completely butcher it. So I know I'm going to butcher this one, but you've heard the quote of, even if you're on the right track, if you stand still, the train will hit you or kill you or something. You know which one. That one. Right? So that's one that sticks into my brain so much with this topic, because evolution is key. What is important to you today and not the things that are important to you when you were 20, right? And what's important to you today are probably not going to be the things that are right at the top of your mind when you're 60, right? So you've got to understand that evolution is part of the journey, is part of the process. We often get very kind of tunnel visioned on what is happening right now. And we forget that evolution is part of the journey. And so with that being said, if you've engaged in these kinds of behaviors, whatever has got you to this level where you're thinking about, how do I maintain, how do I sustain my results? We've talked about, extricate your worth away from that end result. But the top tip I think I have for you on maintenance, on sustainability, is set new goals. Set new goals. If your goal was weight loss and you hit that number, hallelujah, praise Jesus, everything is wonderful. What now? Maybe you set a performance goal. Maybe you say to yourself, okay, I've hit my goal. I'm not the strongest person on the planet. I would actually really love to be able to do full push-ups on my toes. So maybe that's the goal that I set. And so now you have something else to work towards that isn't just around that initial, it's kind of like the evolutionary process of that initial goal, right? The initial goal was to lose weight, to get down to this number. I did that, #nailing it. So what now? And now I can take that and turn it into a performance goal. Okay, now I want to be able to do however many push-ups on my toes. And you get to that, and now it's like, oh, I want to be able to do burpees for a minute without vomiting. Maybe that's what happens next, right? So you can see how you can take that first goal and you hit it, but then you set new goals. And this is a big thing that I coach a lot of my teammates on and a lot of my clients on, is that when you hit a goal, you hit a milestone, you get to this point. So if you imagine reaching for your goals as climbing a mountain, right? You're at the base of the mountain, you're looking up towards the summit of the mountain, that the summit looks hella high and scraggly as AF rocks, and you're like, I don't know how I'm gonna get up there, but I'm gonna try my darndest, right? So you start climbing, you're backsliding, you're doing all the things, you're like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. You take a second, you take a breather, you drink some water, you go again, you keep going, you keep going, you keep going. And then you reach the summit, right? So that entire journey was getting you to your weight loss, opening your business, hiring staff, whatever it is, whatever that goal was, right? You get to the summit of your mountain, you're like, yes, you're jumping around, you stick your flag in the soil, you're like, yeah, we did it, we made it, woohoo. And then you look around to take in the scenery, and you're like, it's cool, this scenery is cool. And then you look to your right, and where you're standing is not actually the summit of the mountain. There's another bit. And you're like, oh crap, I couldn't see that from the ground. Okay, well, I got here, I can get up there. And so you do it again, right? But if you hadn't started that initial journey, if you were just looking at the mountain from the ground, you would think that the summit, the height of all experience, was here. Until you reach this goal, you can't see what else is possible, right? And that's the beauty of self-actualization. That's the beauty of evolution, is that the more you achieve, the more you can achieve. And it's not meant to be a kind of like, oh, am I ever going to be satisfied? Like, it's not like that. It's more of, when you don't know, right? And ignorance is not bliss, in my opinion, because when you know that there is so much more available to you, that there's so much more possible for you, if you live in a space of gratitude, of being very grateful and thankful for all that you have achieved, all of a sudden you want to go and see how much more is possible for you. You want to go and climb that other mountain, even though the journey that you just did, like, you've got scraped knees, you're bleeding, like, you're like, oh my God, I think I'm dehydrated, like, I don't know what is happening to me. But then you're like, but the view from here is cool. So I bet the view from up here is like killer. And so you go. You climb that mountain, you break an ankle, you maybe lose your best friend down, off they go. They're just like, no, peace out, I'm not doing this shit. And they leave, but you're like, oh, I'm going to carry on going. So you carry on going, you get to that, look around, hallelujah, we did it. Oh my gosh, what an amazing achievement. I'm so proud of myself. You look to the left, there's another one, right? And that is, in my opinion, that's the evolutionary process as it pertains to achievement. And so when you're thinking about, how do I sustain my results, the best thing to do is set a new goal, because then sustaining your results is no longer the thing you're trying to do. You're trying to be better. And so this baseline that you've set yourself becomes the base that you're no longer even having to think about, because your focus is on what more can I achieve. Right? Does that make sense? You can see what I'm trying to get at? Perfect. So the point of that is basically adjusting your vision. Adjust your vision. Weight loss turns to performance goal. Business startup turns into business development. Fixing your broken marriage becomes making a thriving marriage, right? Having positive relationships with your girlfriends becomes supporting each other through thick and thin. Like, it's all an evolution. And when you stop thinking just about how do I stay here, and instead thinking about how can I make here even better, sustainability becomes just a byproduct of you moving forward, right? So that honestly is like my tippy top tip. And then beyond that, to really help you kind of, because that can be overwhelming. I get that. It's like, what goal do I set now? And how am I going to do that? That sounds cool, Sabrina, but how am I going to do that? Find yourself a guide, find yourself a mentor, find yourself a coach, find an external set of eyes that can tell you where your blind spots are. Because when it comes to you pushing for something that you've never done, going for something that you've never experienced before, you don't know what you don't know. But somebody who's looking at your journey from the outside can very easily say to you, okay, you need to make this tweak, you need to adjust this, and just those minute changes will make a huge difference. Like, you've all heard how an aircraft leaving from point A and trying to get to point B, if their like direction is off by 1 degree, they actually end up 250 miles off course by the time they get to, like, in the same amount of time they should have been at their destination. And sometimes that 1 degree is somebody else being able to look from the outside in and tell you where the adjustments need to happen, where the shifts need to happen. So if that is something that you need, again, I self-taught a lot of this stuff, guys, watching YouTube videos, looking at reading books. I'm a huge book person anyway, so that was great. But listening to podcasts, following people like Brene Brown and Jay Shetty and you know, all of these thought leaders in this space, and kind of using them as your free kind of coach. Or if you want more direction and more kind of access, hire yourself a coach, hire yourself a mentor, hire yourself somebody that can guide you through these processes. So that is basically my kind of presentation, what I wanted to share with you. Be real with yourself, guys. Like, don't sugarcoat this process. Be real about what has got you to where you are, and whether or not those actions, behaviors, and routines are sustainable. If the answer is no, you have to ask yourself what needs to change, and then start to make those adjustments. They don't have to be 100 things overnight, but you need to start making those adjustments. Understand that your worth is not in question. Your worth is not tied to any status, number, relationship, whatever. Your worth is not tied to any of that. So let that come out of the equation. Give yourself a break. Be kind to yourself and achieve the things that you want to achieve without tying your value to whether or not you're successful, right? And then evolve. If you're standing still, you're going to get run over or killed by that train, whatever. Discover what more is possible for yourself by giving that foundation, that sustainability that you're trying to achieve. How can you make that better? And then sustainability just becomes a byproduct of you setting a new goal and putting in work to achieve new heights, right? And honestly, that's everything that I've shared, like I've said, is one of the reasons I'm so passionate and filled with so much purpose around the work that I do with my clients, because we talk a lot about the things to do, the right things to do that are sustainable when it comes to weight loss, weight gain, when it comes to your business and starting your business, operating your business. What is sustainable and how do we put these things into action? We do a lot of mindset coaching. Like I said, it's how I spend most of my time with them, is coaching them through the mindset blocks and the self-limiting beliefs and all of these things that come up that tell us we're not enough, that will force us to fall down or not stay the distance when it comes to achieving our things. And then always setting new goals, always trying to push the envelope and see what more is possible for ourselves. And that, honestly, within our space, that's what we do. That's what we do, always continuing to evolve. So I wanted to share with you guys just a way that you can contact me. If this will let me kind of cut and paste this thing for you. So I haven't got like a fancy link. My webinar, like the platform that I was supposed to use for this presentation, for whatever reason, it was not playing ball with me when I was trying to set this up. So it wouldn't let me kind of set up a full webinar thing where I can have like my links and all of that kind of in. But this is the only one I wanted to share with you. It was just a way for you to contact me. That goes directly to my messenger inbox. So if you have questions, if you want some recommendations for personal development, podcasts, books, any of that, if you have specific questions about where you are at in your journey, how to sustain that, ask away, happy to help. If you're interested in learning about how we can work together on any of these things, of course, I'm here for that too. So reach out, use that link. It's just, if you're listening, maybe it's m.me/Sabrina TBB. T for Tommy, B for Bertha, B for Bertha, M for mother, .me/Sabrina TBB. That is how you can get in touch with me. It goes direct into my messenger inbox and we can chat about whatever it is that you're dealing with. So guys, I didn't see any questions come through. Like I said, anything comes up for you, just hit me up through that link there. But I want to leave you with just a little bit of breathing some life into you, right? So you guys know, for those of you that follow me or we're in communication through my social media platforms, I share a lot, you know. If you probably feel like you know me pretty well, pretty personally, pretty intimately, because I share a lot. And I do that because of one very simple reason: hope. I have just immeasurable belief in the human condition, in people. And I know that if I have been able to turn my life around, not only from a physical state, a mental state, but also the way, the trajectory of my life looks, like how my career is going, if I've been able to turn all of that stuff around into a direction that fills me with so much excitement for the future, but I am sitting in so much gratitude for where I'm at, then I know that everybody else has that potential. And sometimes it only takes somebody in their own little corner of the internet to be sitting here rooting you on and cheering for you and being that advocate for you to believe it long enough until you're in that space of just belief and gratitude for yourself. So I want you to understand that anything you want in your life is 1000% possible for you. English. You have to believe it though. You have to believe it, because you can achieve stuff if other people believe in you, but you're not going to achieve anything if you don't believe in you. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for sharing your time and your energy with me. I don't take it for granted. I'm so appreciative. If you have any questions, you know how to get hold of me. But until the next time we talk, have a wonderful evening and I'll see you soon. Bye, guys.